Sfirat Omer, 2 more days. We're going to be learning about the Sfira that is called Yesod of Malchut. And the Sfira of Yesod in my soul, we spoke about that the Nefesh is built from the 10 Sfirot, that has 10 Kochot HaNefesh. The Sfira of Yesod in my Nefesh is the power to get connected to something else. And specifically, the Sfira of Yesod is my connection to a Tzadik. We know that the Sfira of Yesod is directly connected to a Tzadik. As we say about a Tzadik, Tzadik Yesod Olam, the Tzadik is the foundation of the world. So the Sfira of Yesod in my soul is the ability to get connected to the Tzadik. And now I definitely don't have the time why specifically I need to be connected to the Tzadik, but the Tzadik, said in a very short way, the Tzadik is my mediator to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the link that allows me to connect to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So I need the way that I will have this connection, this hitkashrut, and the Sfira of Yesod allows me to get connected to the Tzadik. We are counting Yesod Sheba Malchut, so that's already kind of, wait a minute, the Yesod is the Tzadik, when the Malchut is the king. So isn't the king the Tzadik? So we know that there can be two at the same time. Can be a king and a tzaddik. Doesn't mean that they're the same one. So, and in many cases, there's a king and there's a tzaddik. And we see in history many times that there's a king and there's a prophet. The prophet is the prophet and the king is the king. It's not, one has nothing to do with the other. Now, a real king, since we're focusing on the Sfira of Malchut, and I'm going to already say that now so it will be fresh in our mind, even though we're talking constantly about king and the Sfira of Malchut, this is also related to me. I'm also a king in my small domain. I'm the king of my own domain. A real king has the desire to be humble in front of his spiritual leader, even a king. Now in our generation, the king, so to say, a prime minister or a president, he thinks he's the top. The real king, he knows he's the king, but he's still humble and he says there's somebody above me. Spiritual leader, my teacher. So a real king still has the desire and the ability to be subdued and to say there's something above me, a higher level than me. And that's the tzaddik, because the king is a job, is a position, and the tzaddik, that's the spiritual leader. So, I mean, even all the leaders, besides Moshe Rabbeinu that we can really think about, all the leaders had a rebbe, a spiritual advisor. So, nevertheless, even David HaMelech, as great as a king as he was, he had a teacher. He was also humble in front of everybody. He says, Mikol melamdai eskalti, I've learned from everybody. But nevertheless, a real king, a true king, as great as he is and as powerful as he is, he still has the ability and the desire to be humble in front of a spiritual leader. This means to be connected to the tzaddik. Now, the power of Yesod, the Sfira of Yesod, is this power to be able to have this hitkashrut. Now, for example, was Lag BaOmer, 600,000 people went to Lag BaOmer to Meron. 600,000 is the biggest event we have in Israel, bigger than any show, any football game, not such a thing. Can you imagine? This is just physically. Just imagine how many other millions saw it in front of a screen and so forth. But there were 600,000 lucky people who went there. Why do you go there? We can go there every day. A lot of people told me, no, you're going to Meron Lag BaOmer? Well, I can go there every day. Of course I go on Lag BaOmer, don't get me wrong. But I can go there every day. But why do you go there? Because there's a tzaddik staying there. And I explained that a few times. Throughout the week, you go to the grave of a tzaddik, the nefesh of the tzaddik is there all year round. The nefesh, which means that I go and pray there, and I have to pray to God, not to the tzaddik. That's the fine line where some people make a mistake, and that's why a lot of people say, I don't want to go to a grave of a tzaddik. So, but nevertheless, you go, you pray to Hashem, but nevertheless, in the presence is the soul, the nefesh of the tzaddik. Of course you pray in the merit of the tzaddik. You're not allowed to pray to the tzaddik. This is a big sin to go to the grave and pray to the grave. But nevertheless, throughout the week, the nefesh is there. On Shabbat, on Rosh Chodesh, and other auspicious times, then the nefesh, the ruach, and the neshama is there. But on the Hilulah, on the day of the passing, the nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and yechida is in the tziyun. So you're in the presence of the soul. What happens is that you get attached. Remember last week we talked about that if you attach yourself to a good neighbor, it will affect you in a good way. Sit now amongst of 10 righteous people, you'll become righteous too. There's not going to be lashon hara. You're not going to be slandering anybody. All you're going to be is talking good and learning Torah. So you attach yourself to something good. Same thing here. You want to attach yourself to a tzaddik. And you see it's pretty common in many different groups that they attach themselves to a certain tzaddik, whether the tzaddik lived 20 years ago or whether the tzaddik lived 500 years ago. But nevertheless, the Yesod is the power that allows me to have a connection to this spiritual leader. Now, one of the many reasons why I want to be connected to a tzaddik, Moshe Rabbeinu was the ultimate leader. That's why we call him Rabbeinu. And Rabbeinu means my teacher. I mean, everybody in the past got a title. Not everybody, but many got a title. David got the title, David HaMelech. We always say David HaMelech. Which David? David HaMelech. Shmuel HaNavi, Yosef HaTzadik, Aaron HaKohen, Avram Avinu. Many people got a certain title. Moshe got Rabbeinu, our teacher. So, Moshe is called in the Zohar Raya Mehemna. Raya Mehemna means a trustworthy shepherd. That all our leaders were trustworthy shepherds in the eyes of Hashem, that they can lead the nation. But also, the way to explain the name Raya Mehemna means Ro'eh Ne'eman, that he feeds the people emunah. Mehemna is emunah, is belief and faith. The leader is able to feed you emunah. When I have a lack of faith, then I need some type of what's called a chizuk. I'm sure you are registered to at least one group online, the daily chizuk. Right? Chizuk means to strengthen something. The bolt is a little bit loose, strengthen it. So we need emunah. The tzaddik is able to give me the emunah. He's the spiritual leader. So why for me to have this in my spiritual path? Because a real king knows that there's something above him. I'm talking about now a physical king, David HaMelech, Moshe Rabbeinu. They always knew that there's something above. They were humble. It's called a spiritual leadership. You know, even David HaMelech, I said, this is a perfect example of a king. He used to humble himself in front of his rabbis, and he considered the Sanhedrin above him. He listened to the Sanhedrin. I mean, how many kings we had that didn't listen to the Sanhedrin? Not only that, a good king, a real king, he listens to the prophet. How many times we see in our path that there was a king who didn't listen to a prophet, and they had to pay for that at the end. A real king says, yes, I am the king, but there's somebody above me, especially in the spiritual space, which can be the prophet, the Sanhedrin, and so forth. So what has that got to do with me? That I have to understand that there's something spiritual above me, constantly. And I'm not the last word, I'm not the authority. In general, when we're saying the word Yesod, the translation means a foundation. And the foundation, a good foundation, is promising that the building, the structure is stable. So the Yesod of Malchut is the connection to the leadership that is above me. That is what's going to make me stable and strong. You know how many people, unfortunately, if Mashiach comes today, you know how many people will not accept him? Will say, no, I don't want you as my Mashiach. That's how sad the situation is. And even we see in history that situations like that there was a leader and somebody says, I'm not accepting you as my leader. And now we're going to read very soon about Korach and many other situations. But nevertheless, when we spoke about it also in the previous classes about Sfirat Omer. When there's a leader above me, you have to recognize who's the leader and you accept that is a person above me. So the Yesod of Malchut is coming to emphasize that as great as you might be, and if you reach to great levels, there's always somebody spiritual leadership that is above you, and you have to accept it. When you accept it and you're humble, then that's what will cause this Yesod, the foundation, to be strong, and you're stable. That you know there's an authority above me. You don't make up rules. You don't come and say, I don't like what you're saying here, I'm going to do it my way. It doesn't work like that in the Torah. So a person, if you want to take the Sfirah practically, a person has to find himself a leader, a spiritual leader. And especially in our generation, Baruch Hashem, there are thousands of people who find their path to the Torah, both Jews and non-Jews. You need a leader, you need a guide. You can't just do whatever you want. I know a lot of people, they go to a bookstore, they buy a pile of books, they start reading, very good. But you need somebody to tell you, you didn't understand this right. This is not how you interpret it. So that's why one cannot learn by himself. And one cannot grow by himself. Because when I'm now stuck in a certain level, you know what I need? I need somebody to pull me up. So practically saying, it's not only that I have to humble myself in front of the right authority, and I have to find the right authority, because 90% of what's out there is all fake. You have to kind of sift through the dark and say, this is fake, this is fake, this is fake. And I'm talking about in the religious world. I'm not talking right now in any other place. I told you many times that when I became observant, it took me a long time till I found the right one. And I was very disappointed. I went to one rabbi, I constantly saw that he's lying. This rabbi cheating, this rabbi slandering. What's going on here? So you have to find the right leader, and then you have to make that person your spiritual guide, that he's my link to the next level. And needless to say, it has to be the right person, not somebody fake. Sometimes it's very hard to find, but one needs to pray to the Kadosh Baruch Hu to find him the right leader, because if you have the wrong leader, then he leads you to the wrong place. He takes you, if you follow somebody blindly and he's going somewhere, then he's going to take you to the wrong place. Yesod of Malchut is that you have the ability to connect yourself to somebody higher than you, and not only that, by having that connection, that's what stables you. That's what makes the ground firm. If the ground underneath you is shaking, then your whole structure is shaking. So now is a good time to concentrate, to meditate, and to pray to Hashem, find me the right person that would lead me to the right place. I mentioned that in the last class. Who do you are obligated to give more respect? To your father or to your rabbi? So our sages say to your rabbi, because your father brought you to this world, your rabbi will bring you to the next world. That's why you want to make sure you're finding the right person. You know how sometimes you're lost, so you're saying, let me go after the one in front of me. But what if he's lost too? Then you both go to the wrong place. So you want to make sure that the one that you're following is going to take you to the right place. And there's a few key notes, a few things that you have to focus on to recognize in the right person, to say that person is going to take me to the right place. This person is just going to take me, and when he can't get anything more from me, then I'm going to get quick to my tuches. So practically saying, any person has to find himself the right person, the right spiritual guide that will able to affect him. And needless to say, that's what brings great stability in my spiritual work.